All right, we just want to welcome everyone who is here in person and on Zoom, and all those who may watch this later. We're grateful for your time today. Happy to see everyone. Our presenter today will be Jerry McMurtry, the Dean of the College of Graduate Studies, and we're going to be, as you know, talking about the 3 featured prestigious fellowships. And so Lauren is there in person in the IRIC to help with if you have any questions there, you can unmute or you can let her know. And I will be here if you want to put a question in the chat. I can interrupt Jerry or you can, and he'll let you know what, what he'd prefer there. But yeah, we're just really happy that you're here and feel free to ask questions, and we hope it'll be a valuable hour for you.
Great, thanks Amanda. And thanks Lauren for being there in the room. Like Amanda said, I'm Jerry McMurtry, Dean of the Graduate School, and we are really excited to be able to help support students that are looking at some of these really prestigious fellowships. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and you guys will be able to see what we are working through here. So as Amanda said, we've got 3 workshops, that, or 3 workshops. 3 fellowships that we really focus on, but there are many others out there. And I'll show you another tool you can use that will give you the idea of about how many are out there. I did a search in the Pivot database this morning, just getting ready for this, and there was over 4,000 different fellowships or scholarships or awards available by just searching simply for the word graduate. And so there's a ton of stuff out there available. And so I'll walk you through how to get to that resource and how to look through that as well. So, so the 3 that we're going to cover are the 3 that are listed on the web or on the PowerPoint. First is the National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship Program. The GRFP, as it's known, it's been around since the 50s. It is the most established graduate support program in any of the federal agencies. And so NIH has the T31, T32 type programs. It's very close to that, but it is the one that's been around the longest and does award the most fellowships through it. The next one is the Ford Foundation. This one is a little more competitive, but it does open it up to other areas of study that may not fit in the National Science Foundation GRFP. And I'll talk about what some of those disciplinary areas are. And then the National Defense Science and Engineering program, obviously that's for science and engineering. Again, another federal program that provides a considerable amount of money if you were to be able to win one of these. And the nice thing about these is these are transportable. You don't have to be at the institution right now. If you're an Idaho upper division student, senior, who is going to be writing for one of these, this goes with you. So if you wanted to go to the University of Colorado and study there, you would take this with you. And like we get students that win these awards and they come to the University of Idaho with them, which is fantastic. So the first one I want to talk about is the GRFP. And this slide will give you kind of an idea of what its mission is. And so, the NSF, National Science Foundation, is really out there to meet their mission, which is to ensure the vitality and diversity of the scientific and engineering workforce in the US. And they do that through a number of grants. Some of you may be on NSF grants already that are provided through your departments or through your major professors. This is just another arm of the NSF, and they're really trying to build capacity within the research community to go out and make change in society and the world. And so the program goal you'll see there just walks you through what they're trying to do. And it is a 5-year fellowship. And so this is important. So it will cover you for 5 years. If you're doing a doctoral program, most of them are around 4 to 5 years. And the fellowship includes 3 years of full financial support. So that financial support is a stipend of $34,000 and a cost of education allowance of $12,000 that the institution gets to cover your tuition and fees and health insurance if needed. The $34,000 comes to you as a fellowship. You don't have to work for it. You don't have to be a TA or an RA to get that. It's money that they are supporting you, so you don't have to work, because they want you to do the research that you've submitted in your proposal and complete your degree in as quick of amount of time as possible. And so the 2 websites that you can see here really are ones that you're going to want to visit. And so the first one, the nsfgrfp.org, will walk you through all of the questions that you probably have about this particular fellowship. It has a qualifications guideline to see where you can put in your field of study to make sure that it is one that is supported. And it'll answer all of your questions. It really will. The next one, research.gov/GRFP, that's where you can go and read the actual call for proposal. And so this operates just like a regular grant, where there's a call for proposal and a solicitation, and all of the guidelines or all of the regulations are within that proposal or that solicitation. So take a look at both of those websites, and they should answer most of your questions, but if they don't, come to our office and talk. And so the graduate school is the coordinating office for this program. And so we will probably be able to answer your question if you don't get it from the website. Some of the eligibility guidelines for this award: you have to be a US citizen, national, or permanent resident. So international students are not eligible for this award. We will have a session coming up later on for international awards where our international students are eligible. You must be currently at the senior undergrad or in your first or second year of grad school. Now, this is something that's changed over the last few years, but it's important to note. So if you're a senior getting ready to go to grad school, you're eligible, or in your first or second year. You must be seeking a research-based master's or doctoral degree in STEM or STEM education. So a non-thesis degree is not going to work. You need to be in a thesis or a PhD program. If you've already got an MS or more than 2 years of graduate study, you are only eligible to apply if you've had a break of at least 2 years between those degrees. So if you're just rolling right from an MS to a PhD, you are not eligible, unfortunately. And so this is a key point that changed a couple of years ago, is after you enter graduate school, you may apply only once. And so really you've got to think, is this the right time to apply? You've got to do it early for sure, but you may want to wait until the next round. But that's going to be up to you and to your major professor and those people that are supporting you with letters of recommendation and other resources. Students often ask, what are those eligible disciplines? If you go to that research.gov/GRFP website, you pull down the solicitation, Appendix X in the back has all of those disciplinary areas. And so it's NSF proposal 21-602. You can just put that in a website and it'll pop right up. And go to Appendix F or X, and you will see what those eligible disciplines are. Every year there's 1,600 awards. Well, there used to be around 2,000, but under the last budget, there's only 1,600 made available. With 3 years of support, the annual stipend is $34K and the tuition is $12. Word on the street is NSF is going to be getting some additional funding from the federal government under the new budget and the new administration. And so we're hoping that those number of awards given will increase. I'd like to see them back up well over 2,000. So it is popular. There's 7,000 or 8,000 people that apply for these, so it is very competitive. But there are a good number of those awards available, and they like to spread them out across different disciplines. And we can work with you independently and individually on if you think you should apply for one of these or not, and what part of your proposal might get reviewed the most favorably. The other thing with these awards is if you are given one of these, you're eligible for a couple of other opportunities. One is the internship program, the GRIP, which will provide funding while you do an internship out in industry. The other is the Graduate Research Opportunities Worldwide, which we have had some Idaho students take advantage of. And it will allow you to travel internationally and do research overseas with other faculty and other institutions. Recently, one of the people that had one of these at U of I went to France and did a year of study in France. And her field was botany. So what do you have to do to get one of these? It's not too much work, actually. And so you need to put together a personal statement that talks about your relevant background and future goals. And you're allowed 3 pages for that. And believe me, you can fill up 3 pages pretty quickly. So it's got to be pretty technically tight as far as the writing. You have a research plan statement, which is 2 pages. And this is something you're going to want to work with your major professor on. One thing I say that I've told students is you're going to put together a research plan, and they're looking at this as demonstrating your potential for research. It doesn't necessarily have to be actually precisely the research that you do, because we have had students that have won these awards based on a research plan, and they've come back to they've come to campus. I'm like, oh, well, we have a different opportunity. Let's do this instead, and that's fine. They're not going to come back and ding you for shifting a little bit on your research plan. But what they do want to see is that you can put together a solid research plan that's supported and makes sense and answers important questions. And then you need at least 2 reference letters, 3 are recommended, and each of those have a 2-page limit, and then you must submit your transcripts. And so there's not a lot of material that goes into these applications, and having sat on the review panel, it's really tough to try and get a picture of a student's potential through just these documents, but you can do it. And so your writing has to be very tight. And that's one of the things we're going to help you with is with faculty reviews and other things to get your writing to where it is really polished and you're ready for one of these awards. So the deadlines, these things come up quick. And so don't let this scare you. This is totally doable. But the deadlines are based by discipline. So these are listed right here. So life sciences, if you're in biology, if you're in botany, if you're in plant science, things like that, those are due on October 18th. If you're in computer or information science, engineering, social sciences, STEM ed, those fields, those are due on the 19th. If you're in engineering, all different flavors of engineering, whether from mechanical to biological, that's on the 21st. And on the 22nd, then, is chemistry, geosciences, math, physics, and astronomy. So look at those deadlines, determine your discipline, and make sure you meet those deadlines. Reference letters can come in after your deadline. And so you'll see down there in the red, reference letters are due on October 29th. And so even though you've submitted your packet, the reference letters don't need to be there until the end of October. Any questions, Amanda, on that you picked up in the chat or from anyone?
Not on the chat, no. I did want to point out, unless you already said this and I missed it, that we can email out, and I think we have handouts in person, some planning roadmaps for making the timelines work for you.
Yep, and we'll talk about those at the end of the presentation, but thanks, Amanda. We will have those printed and available for you. And I don't know, Laura, do you have those there in the room?
I just realized I was on mute. I'm going to try that again. I do have some here in person.
Okay.
And whatever isn't picked up, I'll bring them back to the office. So if anyone wants a hard copy without printing it yourself, you're welcome to come down to the office and grab one as well.
If there's no other questions on the GRFP, we'll go ahead and move to the second fellowship.
We do actually have one question. I think
Okay.
Cameron would like to ask.
Okay.
Hey, Jerry, I had a quick question of kind of curious about, you said the deadlines were based on discipline. What if our discipline is kind of mixed in between 2 of them? Like, for example, I'm considering more life science and the geosciences.
It's a good question. And the website that GRFP has does talk about that.
Okay.
Which one would you feel is primary? So which one is going to inform the other? And you'll have to make that decision probably with you and your major professor.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, interdisciplinary research is supported. Absolutely it is. But you've got to kind of figure out, okay, which one is primary so it goes to the right panel for review.
Okay.
Good question, though. Why don't we go ahead and move on then to the second one that we're going to talk about, which is the Ford Foundation. This one is a bit more competitive, and you can read the mission statement there. This one really is focused on diversity of nation's colleges and universities to increase the number of professors who can use diversity as a resource for enriching the education of all students. The website down there from the National Academies will give you all the information you need for that. And it is, like I said, a little bit more competitive. So for this one, there's only 75 pre-doctoral awards available with 3 years of support. The annual stipend's a little bit less than the GRFP, but it's still pretty substantial, $27,000. And so there's 36 dissertation awards for those students writing dissertations. And then postdocs, there's 24 postdoc awards available for 1 year at a stipend of $50,000. Now the postdocs are a little bit different because they've already done their doctoral work. And so really it's just 1 year of employment as a postdoc at $50,000. And so the 2 that really we're going to be looking at is the pre-doctoral awards and then the dissertation awards. And so as you can see, not nearly as many being offered. And so they are highly competitive. And their fields that they allow are a little bit more broadly defined. And so For the Ford, again, US citizens, that same type of information, that's where you're eligible for the GRFP. This does include students under the DACA program and other things that you'll see there. You have to be in a research-based program leading to a PhD. And so certainly if you're at the U of I in a PhD program, you qualify for that. And you have to have a pretty good undergraduate record. So you must have evidence of previous superior academic achievement. And they really want to see somebody that's going to move into the professorial ranks. And so they want to see people who really have as a passion the development of a career in teaching and research at a college or university. It doesn't need to be a R1 university. It could be a tribal college. It could be an HBCU. But they want to see people that are committed to teaching other students and moving the discipline forward through education. And so these are the eligible disciplines. And so you'll notice one thing here, it does bring in some of the social sciences and humanities disciplines that the GRFP does not work or does not allow. So you certainly have all the STEM fields, but then you also have literature, you have history, you have performing arts, sociology, things like that. So if you're in one of those fields, this would be the one I would urge you to apply for. If you have any questions, you can always email them down at that very bottom website. They're out in Washington, DC, and they'll be able to tell you if your discipline is eligible. But all the disciplines we have here at the University of Idaho would fit within this, unless you're in a discipline such as like athletic training, which is considered really an allied health field. You would not be eligible if you were in that program. But most everything else you would be. So the application requirements is all your personal and academic data. And remember, they're looking for people with a pretty strong undergraduate record. Personal statement, again, a story of who you are and what you kind of want to be when you grow up. And that is limited to 2 pages. You need to put a statement together of your previous research of scholarly productivity. So if you've got some publications, even undergraduate work, undergraduate publications, definitely they want to see those. Proposed study plan, research and long-term career goals, only 2 pages for that. So again, your writing needs to be pretty tight. And then you don't have to have letters written, but you do have to have the name and contact information for 3 to 5 references. And so they will contact them if you move to the final screen. And then your undergrad or grad transcripts through fall of 2020. The other thing that you're going to have to submit is a verification of doctoral degree status, and the College of Graduate Studies can help you with that. What we do is we just let them know that you are formally admitted into a doctoral seeking program, and that's something we can help you with. That's not a problem. So these applications have a little bit longer timeline. They're not due till December. And so the pre-doctoral awards are due December 16th, and the dissertation awards are due December 9th. Supplemental materials can come in by the first part of January. And the supplemental materials will be like our verification of doctoral degree status, things like that. Okay, why don't we just move right on then to our 3rd fellowship, which is the National Defense Science and Engineering Fellowship. And so again, you can read the mission statement of this program, and it's really focused on science and engineers who want to continue to be in science and engineering as a career. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a career focus in the professoriate or in academia. So these awards, in 2021, there were 159 of them offered at 65 different institutions. So pretty broad, but again, considerably highly competitive. With only 159 available and awarded. It gives you a $38,400 annual stipend for 3 years. So it is the one that does pay you the most. Again, it's a fellowship, so you don't have to work. You don't have to have an RA or a TA. It does cover full tuition and fees. The nice thing about this, it gives you $5,000 to travel, to present your research, to go to meetings, conferences. And then it does give you up to $1,200 if needed for medical insurance. Some students need it, some don't, but it's available to you if you need it. So it is quite lucrative. If you look at the numbers, just in stipend over the 3 years, it's $115,200. So they're really trying to invest in students that are going to be the next generation of real scholars in science and engineering. So the applications here are due a little bit later again than the GRFP. They're due in November of 2021. So it's coming up in November. So again, eligibility, you must be a US citizen. You have to pursue a graduate degree at an accredited U.S. institution, and so Idaho obviously meets that. Be pursuing a research related to specific topics, and you have to have your undergrad degree completed. We will look quickly at the disciplines. And so these are the areas, you'll see these are quite technical disciplines that are eligible for the NDSEG. So we cover most of these here at U of I outside of the ones that are related to marine issues, oceanography, undersea systems, things like that. We don't do much there, but the rest of them, we certainly have students in those programs. And so the application requirements here, your personal information and application form, which you get off the web. They're asking for a resume and a CV. A personal essay, only 500 words. Again, that is super short. And so again, you've got to get as much information as you can out there in as little amount of time as possible. And then you get a research proposal. They want to know what you're going to be studying. And so it's a formal research proposal. You get 3 pages, and then you can have 1 page of citations and official transcripts and 3 references. So there's a bunch of other fellowships to consider. And the Hertz, again, is one that's quite competitive. It's only 10 awarded annually, but it's full tuition plus a stipend for 5 years. And it's renewable annually through those 5 years. And so you can look here on the slide, you'll see what the typical fields of study are for this award and what the award amounts are. And so if you do have dependent children, it'll give you a $5,000 additional stipend to help support your children. And so again, these come up in October. It's coming up pretty quick. And you'll see the website down there at the bottom. And I would encourage you, if you're interested in one of these Hertz awards, to hit that website and see if it's one that you want to write to. And certainly if you put together a GRFP, you could also put together a National Science and Engineering or a Hertz and apply for them all. Hertz also works well with other fellowships. And so what they do is you can blend one of those with another fellowship. And so all it would do is just continue to increase your stipend. And so the NIH F31, if you're working in an area of biomedical research or health, NSF really doesn't do much in that area. In fact, that's really something they have excluded. If you look at those areas of the disciplines that are eligible, you won't see anything in biomedicine or in human health. And so that really is where the NIH comes in, and they have the F31 pre-doctoral awards, and they give about 700 of these annually. The stipend's $25,300 a year for 5 years, plus 60% of the tuition. But if you get one of these, we will cover the tuition. And so the stipend would cover 60% of it. We would find the 40% here if you get one of these NIH F31s. And so these have a rolling deadline. If you look at the website under NIH, the research training, nih.gov, you'll see that they have due dates in April, August, and December. And so the December 8th one would be the first one coming up. And so that gives you plenty of time to put one of these together if you're in the area of biomedical studies. So now that you kind of have an idea about the different fellowships, what are some of the things you can do? Well, first of all, you need to create a strategy. And you need to find some references. And those references are really important. Every one of these fellowships required references. And so just like you ask for references when you put in your graduate application to come to graduate school, you probably will likely go back to those same people and say, you know, would you be willing to write a reference for me for one of these prestigious fellowships? And so hopefully they'll be able to speak to your past and your past work and the quality of your work. Additionally, because they already wrote you a reference for graduate school, I would think that they would be able to speak to your potential, that they know you have the skills and the attributes to become a graduate student and succeed. And then who are those best people to talk about your skills and abilities? Have you worked in a lab? Do you have somebody that you could speak to right now at the University of Idaho that says, yes, this person's been working in the lab and they've done a fantastic job? And then what is the best topic for you to write about? Again, you don't have what you're writing about doesn't have to be the exact thing, but what's the best thing that you can write about that would put you in the best, give you the best case for winning one of these awards? And so you want to talk to your major professor about that. Look at your background, look at what your lab is doing, look at what your program is doing, and then really focus on what the best topic would be as you move forward. Another important part of this is the essay. And so all of these have a personal statement or an essay. They want to know who they're funding, and they want to know what your story is, where you're from, why you're pursuing what you're pursuing. And so they really want to fund a wide variety of students. And so if you do have something very unique in your background, if you come from a very rural part of the country, if you're an indigenous student coming from a tribal community, they want to know that because that helps them understand who you are, where you've come from, and what you're going to be doing as a researcher going forward. And so it's really important that you spend some time on that. It needs to be very compelling. It shouldn't just read like, you know, I was born here, I did this, I went to this high school, I did this college, and on. It should be something that is pretty deep. And they call it a personal statement, so you can get quite personal in these. Obviously not, you know, too personal, but, you know, give them the information that gives them a good picture of who you are and what you bring to this, to the education that you're pursuing, and what and why they should award you one of these fellowships. Then your research plan really needs to focus on how this plan is going to advance knowledge and understanding and create a broader impact to society. And so you'll see in the NSF award, there's two criteria that they talk about. One is intellectual merit and one is broader impact. And you need to speak to both of those. And so both your letters of rec and your essay need to speak specifically to intellectual merit and broader impact. And so this is what broader impact criterion means, and that's what intellectual merit criterion means. And so your major professor, if you're in a STEM discipline who has worked with NSF grants, they've all had to write towards broader impact and intellectual merit. And so if you have any questions about that, talk to your major professor, because they've probably been funded by NSF, and so they've already wrestled with this. And so sometimes it's kind of hard to get your mind wrapped around intellectual merit, because of course, you know, your stuff is going to contribute to society. But really, what part of that discipline are you going to advance? What part of that knowledge are you going to advance? Broader impacts, again, how does this contribute to impacts outside your lab? Talk about what you could do with K-12 education. I mean, how does this really inspire the next generation of up and coming scientists? And so you'll need to spend some time, and really your recommenders, you have to kind of coach them on this so that they understand broader impacts and intellectual merit, so they can speak to that specifically as well. So Ford Foundation, they want to know how you will and have continued to incorporate diversity into your pedagogic strategies. And so they want to know how you understand diversity and really the concept of intersectionality, which talks about all different forms of diversity coming together that you can use to create your teaching strategy. And so the Ford, you actually want to come up with more or less a teaching philosophy as well that is going to add to your personal essay. And one of the tips that we've picked up from the Ford is avoid the technical jargon. Okay, they don't need to all know all the formulas you're going to be working on, things like that. But be very specific, be very personal. They want to know who you are. Okay, they can read about your field of study and the discipline, but they really want this application to be about you and how you're going to move forward in academia. The National Defense Science and Engineering, they want to know how that science that you're going to pursue fits into you and how you are as an individual. And again, how it aligns with the Department of Defense. So this one, again, they don't want it to make it look like a grant submission. The grant submissions are pretty tight, pretty technically written. They want to know about you. And so they want you to write this in your own tone, using your own words. So don't just, you know, make it too bullet pointed. They want an essay here that talks about you and what you're going to do in your future. So I hope this has inspired you to think about moving forward with one of these fellowships. So let's talk about homework, right? We're in higher education. Of course, there's going to be homework. So your homework for next time is please read carefully the solicitation. And so on this presentation, you had all those websites. Read it carefully. There's rules, there's guidelines. We want to make sure that we're following those. Gather all your information together, your CV, your transcripts, create a login. All of these are electronically delivered. So you'll just need to create a login and you'll be submitting them through an online portal. And then start mapping out your application content and a strategy in your head, okay? And we'll give you a timeline here on the next slide or two that'll help you kind of do that. And then make sure your baseline knowledge of proposal discipline is solid. Okay, they want to know that you have a good foundation in the field of study that you're in. Okay, they'll see your transcripts, they'll know that you studied geology, but they really want to make sure that you know about geology if that's your discipline. And so this, I mentioned earlier that there are many other funding options. This link right here, the pivot.proquest.com funding_main, that's the one I went on earlier. And I will show you that at the end of this presentation, what that looks like. So just hold tight if you don't feel like this is right for you, and I'll show you some other ones that might be. But what I want to go to right now is the roadmap. So for the GRFP, here's your roadmap. Okay, today you can look through. The 9th is workshop number 1. Okay, and so next week, the week of the 12th, you can start to develop your essay. 19th, submit your essays to your major professor and committee, and we will start sending those out to faculty reviewers. One of the things that this program does is we have other faculty that are willing to review your application. And it's been extremely helpful for students because it gives a perspective from somebody that might or might not be in your discipline. And it really helps with clarity of the writing, making sure that what you're writing comes across to the reviewers. Sometimes we write within our discipline and we expect everybody knows what we know. Often that's not true. And so our reviewers will come back and they'll say, well, you know, that kind of makes sense, but this term kind of stumped me. And so it's a good chance for you to go back, look at your writing and say, oh yeah, I can see how somebody that wasn't, you know, buried deep in this discipline would know that. Now your reviewers will be from your discipline, but they might not be directly in the subfield of your discipline. And so that's why it's important to get other people to put their eyes on it, read it for clarity, and read it for content. And so you'll be getting those back if we get this going and following this timeline. The week of September 26th, you have another week to incorporate that panel review into your proposal. The week of the 10th, you can kind of tighten everything up, finalize your essays, remind your references, and submit both essays and transcripts to the FastLane portal. And then October 17th, make sure everything is in there, and then send their final reminders to the recommenders. And then we cross our fingers. And there'll be a big announcement, generally in April of the next year, of all those students who were awarded. And so I hope to see a bunch of U of I in there. It's kind of funny when NSF puts this out, they note those that have got the award and then they have honorable mentions. Honorable mentions is great, but it doesn't get you any money. So we really want to see those, our students win those awards and be listed as GRFP fellowship winners. So the Ford Foundation, you've got a little bit more time. And so this roadmap will help you walk through a Ford Foundation application. Again, we've got our first workshops here the first 4 weeks of September. And then you've got quite a bit of time to start developing your essay, finalizing your essay, and then getting in mid-December. And finally, the National Defense. Again, it's the end of October. Oops. It's the end of October. And so you'll be working pretty quickly through the month of October to get everything put together and then submitting it by Monday, November 1st. So with that, thanks for attending. Don't leave just yet. I'm going to show you the Pivot site. But if you have any questions, feel free to call myself or call Lauren or Amanda. We want you guys to apply for these. We really do. And we hope you do. And it's important that we know you are so we can continue to follow your progress. And then I want to pull up the screen for Pivot. And so this is the Pivot and the Pivot website. And so it comes through the University of Idaho. And all I did was just jump in there. And the first search term I put in there was just graduate. You can see right there. And it popped up 4,942 results. So that's a bunch, but it gives you an idea of what's out there. And so the Leo Strauss Award is available if you're in political science. And the amount of that award is only $750, but every little bit helps. If you're a woman historian, there's an award out there for $1,000. If you're a geographer, this one down here, the Robert D. Hodgson, another $1,000 award. There are dissertation grants in Byzantine art and culture. I don't know if anybody in here is in Byzantine art and culture. Those are $3,000. And so you can just scroll through this. You can certainly put in more specific search terms as well. And you'll find just a ton of opportunity for other ways to support your graduate study. And so here's one in food chemistry. Here's physicists in medicine. We don't have a lot of those. Those are pretty substantial, 18,000. The Delta Phi Epsilon Education Foundation. Just take a look through here and see what's available out there for you. So don't be discouraged if you don't fit into one of the discipline areas in the GRFP or the National Science and Engineering or the Ford. There is a ton of stuff out here. And so spend some time here looking around the website and see what you can apply for. Most of these require a very similar application that has a personal statement. They're going to want to know what you're going to do with the money. And they want a little bit of your history. So transcripts for a VIA and a CV. So don't let this scare any of you. It's totally doable. It's totally possible to make this happen. All of you are great researchers. You've got amazing stories that NSF wants to hear or any of these other foundations want to hear. So I would encourage you, please, consider strongly applying for these fellowships.
Can you tell us that that email address for Pivot, because it's through U of I? Can you tell us that one more time?
Yeah, it is pivot.proquest.com.
Oh, it is.
And then funding. So the results came back after the funding. But again, please don't be overwhelmed by this. I know these deadlines are coming up quick, but it can be done. And we have students do it every year, and they're successful. So
thank you, Jerry. That was great.
You bet. Thank you. And we will have a panel coming up during our 4th session where we will have some GRFP winners that are here on campus talking about the strategy they used, and some of them will even share their proposals. So, well, I hate to let class out early. I'm not known for that. So
I have one other thing really quick. This is more for Amanda, but so 2 of our students here are undergraduate students. So they
Great.
don't have access to the graduate support program, BB Learn. So I am having them put a little star next to their name so we can make sure to send them the PowerPoint. So if there are any other students on Zoom that are undergraduate students, then let us know as well. We can make sure you get those materials.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that, Lauren. Yeah, and definitely undergrads, this is a great way to fund your education. Absolutely, going forward. I have never known of a GRFP winner to ever be turned down by any school.
Yeah, I know that's one thing I noticed with some of our winners is that they earned it at a particular school and brought it here.
Correct.
And that's pretty cool.
Yeah, they're transportable, so they go with you. It's not like the institution got the award. The institution will manage the award as far as getting your money to you, but it is yours. It can go with you. And we've had students who have transferred. We had one, she was from Auburn and she transferred to Idaho in her 2nd year because it was a better fit for her research here at Idaho.
All right, well, if there aren't any further questions, we're happy that you all were able to come. I know I gathered the email addresses from online, so I feel you're free to go if you want. But yeah, thank you for coming.
Yep, thank you, everyone. And we look forward to seeing your proposals. If you have peers, you have other lab mates, you think they might be a good candidate for one of these, please share it with them. And we're happy to give them the PowerPoint. They can still participate even though they didn't come to this session. We're about getting as many students in these pools as possible. So please share this with your lab mates and other friends that you may have.
I did have a quick, and I'm pretty sure you said this, I just wanted to double check that I got it right. So for the NSF grant, letters of recommendation aren't due until the 29th, even if your due date for your discipline is before then?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Thank you.
So letters of reference, sometimes faculty are a little slow to get those done. So we give them a little extra time. But we can certainly push on them to get them done too. So, but you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, probably better off giving them the early date just in case.
Yep. Absolutely right. Yep.
And then one other thing I thought of we could mention is that the 2nd session of this, of the workshop series, takes like a deeper look into the elements of the application. And so today Jerry went over kind of more of an overview of each part of it. And so next week's session goes into greater detail. So if you are applying, if you want to kind of come with whatever you've started, and that'll really help jumpstart as you keep progressing through those steps. And so that'll be the second workshop. And then 2 weeks later, we'll have the final workshop with the panel, and that'll mostly be the panel discussion and then any questions that you guys have in the process. The third week is for international students. So if you know of any international students who might be interested, definitely pass the word along to them as well, and we'll try to reach out to. So yeah. Thank you all for coming.
All right, thank you all.